always are. Okay, so today we're doing lesson 2, and as I mentioned earlier, there are 2 ways to solve percent problems. One is using proportions, the other way is using equations. Today we'll talk about proportions. We won't hit equations until after the break. So we're going to separate this into 3 parts. First, finding a percent, finding a part, finding a whole. And I have the problems divided into sections. In the real world, you're going to have to figure out which problem is which, but this makes it a little easier to get started. Okay, so when we find a percent using proportions, we're always going to use this proportion. We put the percent over 100 because percent means how many out of 100, as we learned yesterday. So if we have 19%, we have 19 over 100. And we make that equal to, in our problem, the part over the whole. The tricky thing when you're doing percent problems is figuring out sometimes which is the part and which is the whole. That's the thing that confuses people sometimes. One thing that may help you, the word is sometimes usually used to represent the part, and the word of is usually used with the whole. So that may help you a little bit. Okay, let's look at the example. The example says, what percent of 2,000 is 204? So we have this word of going with the 2,000. That's our whole. Of usually goes with the whole. So percent of 2,000 is 204. This is our part. So we have our whole and our part. And the thing that we don't know is this. What, it's supposed to be a question mark, what percent of 2,000 is 204? So our x is going to go right here with the word percent. X over 100 equals the part, which is 204, over the whole, which is 2,000. Okay, then we can solve the proportion by cross multiplying. So we get 2,000x equals 100 times 204 is just 20,400. Dividing both sides by 2,000. We get x equals 10.2, and we can just tack the percent on. When we use proportions, the number that we get is the actual percent, so we don't have to move any decimal places. When we use equations, we get decimals rather than percents, so we do need to change that. Okay, number 2. Can I have a volunteer to direct me through how to do number 2? I don't want to put anyone on the spot. Kayla, want to try it?
X over 100 is equal to 34 over 234.
34, yes, 34 over 234. Okay, now what do I do to solve it?
You cross multiply, so you multiply 100 times 34.
Okay.
And X and 234.
Okay, so I have 234x equals, what is 100 times 34?
3,400.
Good. We just have to add 2 zeros. Now what do I do?
Divide each side by 134.
Good. And I get, anyone who, if you did this on a calculator, anyone have the answer ready? Megan? Good. It's 14.5. This isn't going to show up because it's blue on blue, but you should have a percent there. 14.5%. Sorry, my 5 looks a little weird too. Let's fix that. 14.5, and then there should be a percent sign. Okay, the next 2 are for you to try, so let's take a second. I'm going to pause the video. If you're watching the video, you should pause and try these 2 first. Okay, Angelina, could you tell us how to set up the proportion for the first one?
X over 100 equals 92, like 20 over.
Good. And do you have an answer? Anyone have an answer for that one? Emma?
25.
Good. So you get an answer of 25%. Okay, number 2. Morgan, can you tell us the proportion for that one?
X over 100 equals 11 over 54.
Okay, and your answer?
1,100 over 54. And then
Okay, and then what is that?
20.4%.
Good. 20.4%. Okay, any questions about those? Okay, let's go on to the next page. Next page is how we find a part if we're given the whole and a percent. So the first one says 20% of 55 is what number? So here's our of 55, that's our whole. We know our percent is right there, and what we want to find this time is the is. Is what number? We want to find the part. So how do you think we would set up this proportion if we want to find the part? Bella?
Divided.
Well, we're still gonna have 2 ratios on each side. So what would we put on this side? We want percent over 100 equals part over whole.
The percent over 100.
And what do we know the percent?
20%.
20. So we want to put the 20 over 100 equals, do we know the part?
No.
No. So that's going to be our x. And we do know the whole. The whole is 55. Okay, so then we would cross multiply. I don't think I need to go through all of the stages well, also right up here. 100x equals 20 times 55 is 1100. Dividing both sides by 100, we get x equals 11. So 20% of 55 is 11. And these are the ones that are actually easier to do using an equation, which we'll talk about next time. Okay, how would we set up the proportion for number 2? Volunteer on this one? Cheyenne, you want to try it?
45 over 100 equals X over 50.
Good. Okay, so then solving this, we'll cross multiply. We get 100x. 45 times 30 is 1,350. Dividing both sides by 100 gives us 13.5. Okay, now let's try numbers 1 and 2, and then we'll talk about that in a minute.
We can try it.
Yeah, try numbers 1 and 2. Okay, number 1. Trey, tell me how I would set up the proportion for number 1.
X over 45.
Wait, what?
I'm an idiot. I just copied.
Okay, that's
I
okay.
know how to do it.
Okay, good. Tell us how to do it. We'll put you on the spot a little bit.
X over 78.
Okay, x over 78. I'm going to put that on this side just to keep our sides consistent. It doesn't really matter.
And 36 over.
Good. Okay, so you probably don't have a correct answer for that if you set it up. Angelina, do you have an answer?
The answer for the problem.
The answer for this. Yeah, the whole answer.
Trying to figure it out.
Okay. Megan? 28.08. I'm going to round that to 28.1 just because we've been kind of rounding to the nearest tenth. Good. Okay, number 2. Kayla?
Did we kind of do it as
First tell me the proportion and then the answer.
68 over 100 equals X over 160.
Okay, and then what do you get as an answer?
X equals 176.8.
Good. Okay, any questions about these? Yes.
When you do these, could you always do, like, to check your answer? 'Cause I was just thinking, like, if you converted the percent to a decimal, could you do, say, like, 55 times 0.2?
Like up here?
Yeah.
55 times 0.2. Yeah, that would work for that one. Okay, last one is finding the whole if we're given the percent and a part. So we have 16 is, So we know that this is the part. We have the percent. What we don't know in this case is the whole. So how do you think you would set up this proportion? Megan? Good. 16 over x. Our part is on top. Our whole that we don't know is on the bottom. So cross multiplying, we get 25x equals 1600. Dividing both sides by 25 gives us x equals 64. And number 2, Max, can you tell us how you think you would set that one up?
80, yeah, 80 over 100.
No, the percent is what goes over 100, and 80 is not our percent.
60 over 100.
Good.
Equals 80 over.
Good. Okay, then cross multiplying, we get 60x equals 8,000. Dividing both sides by 60 gives us x equals, we get 133.3 repeating, so when we round it to the nearest tenth, we just have 133.3. Okay, just take a minute to do numbers 1 and 2. We're not going to spend too much time because I want to make sure we look at some mixed examples. Okay, let's go over these. Even if you're not quite done, you can still always give us the proportion. Number 1, Bella, tell us what the proportion would be.
18 over 100 equals 35 over x.
Okay, and what did you get as an answer?
X equals 194.7.
Good. Okay, number 2. Nathan, what would the proportion be?
43 over 100
Uh-huh.
and 11 over x.
Good. And did you get an answer?
No.
Volunteer for the answer, Madison.
25.6.
Good. X equals 25.6. Okay, ordinarily I would stop here and we would just practice this. I am going to go on and look at least one more problem, maybe 2 with you, because I won't be here tomorrow. So I'm not going to give you homework tonight. I'm going to give you work to do in class tomorrow, and that'll be the last thing that we do till we have our party on Thursday. Okay, so we do want to look at these mixed examples because these are out of order. We don't know if they're looking for the part, the whole, or the percent. So we have to figure that out and then plug everything into our proportion. Okay, so suppose your entertainment budget is 30% of your weekly wages from a job. You plan to spend $10.50 on a movie night. How much will you need to earn at your job in order to stay within your budget? Okay, so what do we have up here? What parts do we have? Kayla?
The percent and the whole.
All right, we have a percent. So we have the percent. And she says that we have the whole as well. Do you guys agree that this is the whole?
No.
No? Who said no? Okay, why?
I think it's the part because he needs to earn at least 150.
Okay, because he needs to earn at least $10.50. Well, this $10.50 needs to be the 30%, right? If he's spending the $10.50 on a movie, that is the 30%. So the amount that he earns at his job is going to need to be more than that, right? So the more, almost always, more is going to be the whole. It is possible that you have a percent that's like 125%, and then your whole would actually be smaller. But in most cases, the whole is bigger. He's going to earn more at his job than the $10.50. So how would we set this up in a proportion, keeping in mind we want percent over 100 equals part over whole? Emma?
45 over 100 equals 1050 over x.
Wait, what did you say? What's the percent?
35 over 100. 30.
There we go. Okay, 30 over 100 equals
1050 over x.
good. Okay, and then we would solve that. When we do, we find out that x equals 35. So we would need to earn, or he would need to earn, you would need to earn, however we want to answer this, $35 in order to stay within your budget. And that makes sense because 30% is about a third of 35 would be about $10. So we're close. Okay, let's look at the next problem. Your math teacher assigns 25 problems for homework. You have done 60% of them. How many problems have you done? Okay, so I think it's pretty obvious probably to all of us that we have a percent in there. So the percent is given to us. But we have to decide, is the 25 problems part of the homework or is it the whole homework? Diane? It's the whole. The 25 is the whole. So what we want to know is the part. How many problems have you done? You've done part of the homework. You've done 60% of it. Okay, so how would we set up this proportion? Volunteer for this? Emma, go ahead.
60 over 100 is actually 25.
60 over 100 equals x over 25. Go. Okay, so we end up with, I'm not going to go through and solve this just to save time. We end up with x equals 15. So you've done 15 problems. That makes sense because 15 is about 60%, or is exactly 60% of 25. Yeah, David.
Did you use this lab there?
Yeah, I could have. It's just a generic problem that I probably picked up from somewhere. All right, guys, you can pack up. Tomorrow when you come in, let me stop this.